Adjournment. In the past, adjournment occurred when a chess match has been played for too long, for instance 5 to 6 hours, therefore the game is suspended and played the next day. The moves were noted down by the arbiter and would only be opened after the game resumed. An example of an adjournment would be a game between Effin Geller and Bent Larsen, which was played in 1966. Advanced pawn. An advanced or passed pawn is a pawn that is on the opponent's side on the board. For white it is across the 5th rank and across the 4th rank for black. The pawn must be free from other threats and the enemy pawn should not be in the way, which blocks the pawn from promoting. Advanced pawns on the 5th rank or further are usually worth 2 points, depending on the position. Blockade. Blockade is the strategic placement or positioning of a piece that obstructs a pawn from promoting. For instance here, the rook is played right in front of the pawn, not allowing it to promote, thus allowing a piece to capture the pawn before it is too late. Blunder. A blunder in chess happens when a player plays a very serious error which usually leads to a negative impact on the player. This negative impact influences the position of a player or the material. For instance here, white plays a blunder by attacking the bishop. The bishop can now take the queen, thus having a material advantage. Capture. A capture occurs when a player takes on the enemy's piece, removing it from the board and taking its place. Castling. Castling is the only move in chess where 2 pieces can move at the same time. This is when the king moves 2 spaces towards a rook, and the rook then moves to the other side, right next to the king. Note that this is the only time the king can move 2 spaces. Castling can occur both short side and long side. Short side castling is when it is played with the rook nearest to the king. And long side is when it is played with the rook farthest away from the king. There are a few criteria that need to be met in order for castling to occur. The king and rook haven't been moved and are still on their starting square. The king is not in check. And the king cannot castle through check, meaning if an opposing piece is covering a square which is in the way of castling, then it wouldn't be possible. Check. In chess, check refers to a condition where a player's king is under attack, thus the player giving the check can take it on the next move. There are 3 things a player can do to avoid the check. 1. Capture the piece giving the check. 2. Block the check with another piece. 3. Move the king to a safe space. Checkmate. Checkmate, or sometimes referred to as mate, is a position where the king is in check by an opponent's piece and has no escape routes to escape the check, thus leading to a win. Here, in this position, white delivers mate on the f7 square with the bishop. The bishop gives a check, and it is supported by the knight, therefore the king cannot take on the bishop. The king cannot also move to the only escape square left, as that is also covered by the knight. Deflection. Deflection in chess is a tactic that forces or tempts a piece to move from its square which it was previously on, thus leading the piece away from the square, rank or file it occupied. For instance here, the rook gives a check, however the king cannot escape. The only move black can play is to take on our rook with theirs, thus moving the rook from the f-file, where it protected the queen. We can simply take on the queen. Desparado. Desparado is a situation where a piece is doomed to be captured, therefore the piece will inflict as much damage as possible before being captured. Discovered check. Discovered check is when a piece moves, revealing another piece behind it, which therefore gives a check. This can be useful in many ways. The example shown here shows the diagonal of the queen blocked by the knight. When the knight moves, the king is in check. After the king moves, the knight can take the queen, causing black to have material loss. Doubled pawns. Doubled pawns is an inconvenient placement of two pawns on the same file, causing difficulty in pawn breakthroughs, promotion, and slow movement of the pawns. However, the advantage of having a double pawn, especially in the middle, causes us to have more control over surrounding squares. En passant. En passant, a French phrase meaning, in passing, is a hidden move in chess where if two pawns are side by side, the pawn can be captured. The opponent's pawn has to first move two squares, which it can only do on its first turn. Now, if their pawn and your pawn are now side by side, the pawn can capture black's pawn. The pawn still moves diagonally, normally to how it captures, but the opponent's pawn is captured. Note that this can only happen on the first turn after the pawn is pushed two squares. If not, and another move is played, this move will now not be possible. File. Files are the columns that go across the chessboard. There are 8 files in total on the chessboard, which are named from A to H. Here, for example, the E file is highlighted in green. Fianchetto. In chess, Fianchetto is a series of developmental moves where a bishop is moved to either the 2nd rank for white or 7th rank for black, and covers the longest diagonal on the board. An example is shown here, where the pawns are played out, followed by the knights and then followed by the g-pawn, which brings the bishop out, ready for attacking on the diagonal. Fork. In chess, a fork is a tactic in which a piece, usually a knight, attacks 2 or more pieces simultaneously. The piece attacking is known as the forking piece, whilst the attacked pieces are known as the forked pieces. A fork usually occurs when a player wants to win material, and it is very effective when involving a king. Here, in this position, the knight takes on the pawn, forking the queen and rook. The king cannot take as it is protected by the bishop. The queen is the most powerful piece, so after it moves, the knight takes on the rook, leading white to win in material. Hanging piece. A hanging piece refers to a chess piece that is not protected and can be captured by any other piece. Usually, a hang piece is a blunder that the player has not foreseen and has forgotten to move, protect, or just didn't see the piece that can capture it. In this position, we can see that black played the knight, which left it hanging, therefore white can easily capture without bishop being recaptured. Perpetual check. In a game of chess, perpetual check refers to a situation where there is a series of checks, therefore a player can force a draw on the 3rd move. This usually occurs when one player is losing or in a bad situation, therefore by giving a perpetual check, they can cause a draw. In this position, we can see white is down 8 points in material. However, after the repetitive checks, white can secure a draw. Pin. A pin is where a piece attacks an opponent's piece, to which it cannot move out of the way as it will expose a more valuable piece. This tactic is very useful as it limits the mobility of certain pieces. Here, in this example, we can see that the bishop pins the knight to the queen. If the knight moves, it reveals a more valuable piece behind it, which is the queen. Royal fork. A royal fork is a type of fork in which it includes the fork of the top 3 most powerful pieces on the board, which are the king, queen, and rook. Simplification. Simplification is a phase in a chess game where both sides trade of material equally, thus leading the board to look much simpler and easier to read and play. This usually occurs in the endgame of a match. The winning side will often start this of knowing that once the process is over, they will have a better material or positional advantage than the other. Here, in this position, we can see white trades of almost every piece, except the passed pawn. Once this phase is over, black has no piece left to capture the pawn before it promotes, thus leading white to win the game. Skewer. A skewer is similar to a pin, however, instead of having the more valuable piece at the back, we have it at the front. If the valuable piece moves, it will reveal a not-so-valuable piece behind it. This often leads to a trade. Underpromotion. As the name suggests, underpromotion is where a pawn promotes into a piece that is not a queen, which leaves us a bishop, knight, or rook. This is usually not very common, as many players promote into the queen. However, certain positions say likewise. Here, we can see that even after having a passed pawn, white is in threat of mate in 1. If white is to promote into a queen, the black queen can deliver mate. So instead of promoting into a queen, we underpromote it into a knight, forking the queen and king. The king moves, and we take the queen, both preventing mate and winning in material. X-ray. In chess, X-ray refers when a piece, usually a rook, bishop or queen, is on a rank, file or diagonal in which the piece indirectly attacks a square by seeing through multiple pieces. Here, we can see that the bishop X-rays the queen. Finally, Zugzwang. Zugzwang, meaning compulsion to move, is a situation where a player has to move, however any move played will worsen their position. In this position, it is white's move first. If white plays d5, attacking the pawn, black will ultimately attack ours. We now go besides the black pawn, putting black in Zugzwang. Black cannot take our pawn or defend the pawn, therefore after black moves we take on the pawn and promote into a queen to win this endgame.